will give you 0.31 centimeter. Okay. So now that we have the millimeter converted into the centimeter, we are ready to do the calculation. And we plug in the number 13.56 gram, that's the mass, divided by the volume. Volume is obtained from multiplying the width and the thickness in the same units. This is the number that you get from the calculator, 2.71267816954. How many stick fig are we supposed to keep? 2. Okay, so 2.7 gram per cubic centimeter. Unit. If I ask you what is the density of this piece of metal, you say 2.7. Wrong. Unit has to be included in there. 2.7 gram per cubic centimeter. You have to report the magnitude and the unit. That's something that I cannot overemphasize. People, when we do the experiments there, when you write your lab reports there, people always just put the number in there because that's what they got from the calculator. The calculator will not display a unit. You have to put the units in there. You have to determine the correct number of stick bed. Okay, so this is very, very, very important. You got to pay attention to these things. Is later on when you get into pharmacy school, when you try to prepare a dose of medication there, you got to pay attention to the unit there. 2 grams versus 2 milligrams. One may cure a disease, the other may cure the patient. So you have to pay attention to the quantity as well as the units there. So talking about the sig fig involved in calculation, or calculation involving sig fig here, we say multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. But more than often, you are going to have a combination of all 4 different types of calculations. How do you determine the sig fig involving those different types of operations there? Well, we need to look at each of the operations, determine what is the sig fig we're supposed to keep after each step. And then in the end, we do the rounding in the end. In the end, we determine how many sig fig we're going to keep for calculation. So this is an example here, 26.05 plus 32.1 divided by 0.032 plus 7.7. So what's the answer going to be? Well, you look at the numerator there, okay, you're doing an addition. When you're doing the addition there, you go with the least number of decimal places. So when you add these two numbers together, you're supposed to keep just 1 decimal place. When you're doing the addition there, you're supposed to keep just 1 decimal place. Okay, that will help you to determine the number of sig fig when you finish the entire calculation after you do the division. So in this case, if you're adding these two numbers together, you're supposed to get 58.2. If this is the end of calculation, we know we go with 1 decimal place for addition subtraction. This number is 5. Okay. 1 is the digit that we're going to keep. We're supposed to round it up. Okay. Now, you do the addition in the denominator there, 7.7032. This is the digit we're going to keep. 1 decimal place. All these numbers need to be trunked off. Okay. Now, we don't want you to do the rounding here or here. Rather, we want you to do the division first, and then you determine. Here, in this case, we have 1 sig fig, 1 decimal place there. Okay. And here, in this case, well, but we have 3 sig fig in there. And here, we have 1 decimal place, where we have 2 sig fig. And 3 sig fig versus 2 sig fig. When you do division, you go with the least number of sig fig. You're going to keep 2 sig fig. So this is the result from the calculation of division of these two numbers there. And 2 sig fig, 7.5. So again, rounding is only done when you at the end of the calculation. You do not do the rounding in the middle. Now, if you do, you may end up with something that we call rounding error. So if you round this up to 58.2, you round this down to 7.7, you do a division there, you may end up with a slightly different number. Okay. Now, the thing here is that which one is the correct answer? In an exam there, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately I should say, it makes it a lot easier for me to do the grading there. All of your exams are going to be multiple choice. Okay, so in the multiple choice questions in the exam there, I will not, I promise you, I will not confuse you with the rounding error. If the answer is going to be 7.5, I will not give you a 7 point, say in this case, if the answer is going to be 7.5, and I will not give you a calculation that will result in 7.57, you round it up to 7.6. I will not have another answer there that say 7.6. Okay. I will take care of that, and I will not give you the rounding error. I will not confuse you with the rounding error there. However, that said, you have to pay attention to how you do the calculation. Okay. You may have answers in one of those as one of the selections there. It's an incorrect answer based on the incorrect information that you use to do the calculation. But rounding error is never something that's going to appear in your exam questions in multiple choice format. But when you're doing a lab report there, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to the sig-fig, to the rounding. Okay? When you do report lab report in the laboratory there, you need to know how many sig-fig you're supposed to keep. And on Thursday, when you go to the lab there, you're using a balance. The balance measures to the 4th decimal place. You're using veneer caliper. Veneer caliper measures to the 2nd decimal place. Obviously, you are going to end up with different number of sig-figs. You have to pay attention to that. And when you use those numbers, after you acquire the measurement from those different equipments there, when you do the calculation there, you have to remember these rules. That's why we go through these topics in class, as well as we outline them in the lab manual there. You have to pay attention to these things. Otherwise, you may end up with incorrect answers or inaccurate answers. Your lab instructor may take points off if you have mistakes in rounding and determining the correct number of sig-fig. So pay attention to these things here. Now, one thing that we mentioned here, conversion factor. Now, when you do calculation involving conversion factor, we have to, how do we determine the conversion factor? Well, obtaining data by measuring physical quantity, we always need you to include the units. Okay. So this is kind of summary of what we talked about so far. Always include the units there, not just the measured quantity there. Always include the units there. Okay. The SI unit, the metric unit there, and the that refers to the same thing. The metric system is what we use as an international standard here. Now we understand there are different measurement units there. So the list of equivalent quantity, this is what we call the conversion factor. In length, the length is measured in meter, but we have kilometer, we have decimeter, centimeter, millimeter, micrometer, nanometer, so on and so forth. What are the conversion factors there? And these are the prefix multiplier that I showed you at the beginning of this particular learning objective there. So these are the conversion factors that will be given to you. So you don't need to memorize all of them, but when you do repeated calculation in the practice there, you'll probably remember 1 meter equals to 100 centimeter. Now you may ask, where do you get 1 centimeter equals to 100 equals to a 10 millimeter? Well, if you look at this particular conversion table here, 1 meter equals to 100 centimeter. 1 meter also equals to 1,000 millimeter. So 100 centimeter is equivalent to 1 meter. 1,000 millimeter also is equivalent to 1 meter. So these two quantities would equal to one another. As a result, you divide everything by 100 there.